Hey there, you Trek heads. What's going on? I am Phil, and sorry for being a little bit late with this video review of Star Trek Discovery's episode Red Angel from season 2, episode 10 to be exact. But I just got really swamped with some other work. But I do want to thank those of you who do follow me and watch or listen to the other videos. Please like and subscribe so that you'll know when these videos are coming in. Now, usually I do a little bit of a recap slash spoiler review of everything, but this time I'm just gonna comment. I think this episode deserves a little bit more commenting than recapping, especially since it was one of the few Star Trek Discovery episodes that really tried to be very linear. Didn't have a million different plot lines happening at the same time, which is a rarity for Star Trek Discovery. It pretty much just dealt with this one central issue, which was the title of the episode, The Red Angel. Who or what is the Red Angel? Although I think we've established pretty much that the Red Angel is a who, or we had before this episode. So it was no surprise when we got the identification of that Red Angel right at the beginning of the episode. It just probably wasn't what we had expected. And what do I mean by that? Because most people had kind of guessed that it was Michael Burnham, and that's exactly who they said it was. But something went off in my head when it was that easy. It's like, nah, it's not going to be that easy. There's a little something else coming. And there definitely was. We discovered that the Red Angel was actually, or is actually, Michael Burnham's mom, who was thought to be dead and somehow managed to not be dead. So that there's a lot of questions to be answered. But before we go on, I'm only bringing this up because I got into a really huge argument. Actually, I even got kicked out of this Facebook group here in Brazil. Star Trek Facebook group, but then she put me back in. Based on this issue with Stamets and Colbert, who have slowly been trying to figure themselves out this season after Colbert came back from the dead. Now, I've read a few people ask, and I don't know if they're doing it maliciously or just honestly doubting, whether or not when Colbert came back and he's this new person, if his gayness was wiped out, which is absolutely ridiculous. I think the actor has said the same in a Twitter post, that's the most absolutely ridiculous theory ever. Because, gay is essence. It's your essence, right? It's who you are, at least for those of us who believe that sexuality is not something that is learned or environmental, or because your grandma died when you were too little, or your dad didn't spank you enough when you were a kid. You're born this way, as Lady Gaga famously put it. And if you disagree with that, whatever. I mean, you're free to disagree. But him coming back and all of a sudden being heterosexual is just not part of the equation here in this universe, at least from what these writers are trying to get across. He's just going through this trauma of, I remember everything, but I feel like a new person. It's really freaking weird. And that's that. So anyway, in this episode, we have a scene where Giorgio, who, by the way, is the star of this show, enters a room where it's just Colbert, Stamets, and Tilly, three people that know who she really is from the mirror universe. And so she gets to let her hair down. And she comes on to Stamets, she comes on to Colbert, calls him Poppy. And I thought it was great, 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 great. And Stamets is like, it's not happening. I'm gay. And she makes this reference to how in the mirror universe, he definitely wasn't. He was much more pansexual, and he should open up his possibilities, blah, blah, blah. And then she comes on to Colbert, calls him Poppy, as I mentioned, and he's like, I'm gay too. I believe he says that he's gay too. But anyway, I'm gay definitely came out of Stamets' mouth, which for me is like, wow. Here we go. Star Trek. It took until 2019 for us to have a gay character. Not just a gay character, but one that's willing to say, hey, yes, I'm gay. Like, I'm not going to screw you. He's not saying I'm gay to what's the word that I'm looking for? Fly some flag and throw it in your face. Look at us. We are gay. No, it's just, I mean, it was within the context of that conversation. Makes absolute sense for him to say, I'm gay. I'm not going to sleep with you. Just like if a gay man had been coming on to him and he were straight, he would say, I'm sorry, I'm straight. It's not going to happen. So the argument arose because this woman was extremely offended by this. Because supposedly in the 24th century or 23rd, wherever we are in time and space, we don't have these labels anymore. There's no such thing as heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, whatever sexual there is, which given, and I don't want to get too political here, but given some of the left wing's endless additions to the LGBT acronym, I don't really believe. LGBTQ, LGBTQR, anyway, gotta memorize the whole damn alphabet. But given that, I seriously doubt that in the future people are gonna do away with labels when it seems like we're getting more labels. But, social politics aside, I definitely hope that in the great future that Gene Roddenberry imagined, we have not done away with labels. Okay, now her vision of Star Trek, and maybe some other people's vision of Star Trek, is that now we're one human race, and therefore, we don't see color anymore. We don't see black, we don't see white, we don't see Asian, we don't see African, we don't see European. I'm like, what? Again, forgive me if I'm getting a bit too political on this one, but that, I'm very rarely am I offended. I really am. I mean, and I guess, was I offended? I was getting upset with this conversation. Let's just put it that way. Because as someone who has not seen gay people on Star Trek ever, okay, I mean, we had the Dax episode, but it was sort of like yes, but no, okay? The fact that, one, we do have gay characters on Star Trek, openly gay, is awesome. And the fact that he could say, I'm gay, just like, Chekhov can talk about, great Russian epic, about a girl in shoe, in Star Trek 6. And I can't think of any right off the top of my head, but I'm sure Sulu has spoken about Japan in his Japanese heritage. One of the best things about Star Trek Deep Space Nine is that they don't try to make Sisko just the man Sisko, judge him by his character, not the color of his skin. Great, we're not judging him, but he's a black man. And there are wonderful episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Okay? The title escapes me. What is it? Once Upon a Time? What's the one where he travels back in time and he's this writer in the 1950s, a black writer who can't have his stories published, and his stories are actually the Deep Space Nine. Great episode. But anyway, they talk about that head on. The episode where he's with his son trying to get that flyer, that space flyer going. And they talk about heritage. They talk about family, the importance of his blackness. Okay? I love that Star Trek Deep Space Nine didn't run away from that. He's a black man. Now, is it something that we should feel like, oh, he's better because he's black, or he needs special? No, of course not. But please, I mean, I hope that in 200 years we can still say, look, he's an Indian. And that's wonderful. You know, India, I have a lot of Indian friends. Their culture is beautiful. They have a lot of great food, and their clothes is different, and their way of talking, and their religion. And that's what makes them special, unique, wonderful people. Different than me. You know, I hope I can look at somebody who's trans and say, oh, look, it's a trans woman, and it's incredible. It's something different. I don't understand it, but it is what it is. I'm going to respect that person regardless. But I hope we don't get to a point in history where we say, oh, it's just, Sarah or Mary, and there's no history. There's no, that you're erasing history. You're erasing a person's journey. You're erasing a person's identity by saying, oh, no, trans doesn't exist anymore in 200 years. You're just a human. Gay doesn't exist anymore. You're just a human. What? As you can see, I'm getting a little heated over this. Sorry it went on a little bit longer than I wanted to talking about this issue, but I thought it was an important issue, man. I mean, I remember being a teenager and having to sneak down to my parents' basement because my parents were extremely homophobic to watch that Ellen episode. Was it 97, 98 that it came out? Where she says, I'm gay. And I was like, wow, look at that. Was it 20 years later? I'm terrible at math. Now on Star Trek, we have a character that says, I'm gay. And he's kind of over a little. I don't know if that was supposed to be a tribute to Ellen, because he kind of was over a little table the same way she was at the airport. So what am I supposed to think about this? I mean, I thought it was great. And what's great is that we've gone so far as showing different types of characters on television, and showing them as humans, because as much as I appreciate what Will and Grace did, okay, but those are very stereotypical images of gays, which is fine. I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? You have to start somewhere. So yes, does it suck that, for the first 50 years or 60 years of, maybe until Sidney Poitier came around, blacks were the maids or the criminal, or just like the other friend that you didn't really flesh out. Does it suck? Yes. But am I happy they were there? And it was a beginning? Yes. Until we can get somebody like Sidney Poitier, which for some people was like the nice black, the malleable for white people black, which is fine. But you got to start somewhere. And we know Sidney is way deeper than that. Until we can, it took a Sidney to get us a Will Smith, Denzel, Samuel L. Jackson, and, the many other, and sorry I'm mentioning only male actors, but there's some great female actors, including Sonequa, it takes tiny steps to get there. So that's that. Sorry about this rant, but it was important for me to acknowledge. Well, actually, it wasn't important for me to acknowledge it until I realized some people were feeling this way, that I can't believe Star Trek is doing this, and this is only adding to the prejudice that we already have in this century for them to say I'm gay on Star Trek, because in Star Trek, we're not supposed to have these labels anymore. I'm like, what planet are you living on? If you disagree with me, feel free to disagree with me, but give me a logical, explanation for this. I don't get it. I do not get it. And then she kind of changed her story into, the fact, but we're not there yet as a society to hear this on Star Trek, because there are a lot of people with prejudice in the sci-fi world, which is true. Sorry, you sci-fi guys and gals. But there's a lot of prejudice. It's much better now than it was years ago. But it's incredible to me because sci-fi is supposed to be a great vision of the future. But like Whoopi Goldberg said when she was little watching her on screen, she was a godsend. She was incredible. Why? Because black people didn't exist in the future, right? And women, I mean, watch the pilot episode of Star Trek The Cage. There's a lot of misogyny going on, you know? So even inside Star Trek, we see these things. So Star Trek's not perfect, and that's fine. But there's stuff in sci-fi which is like, what? But anyway, moving on. I'll try to move on. As you can see, this upset me quite a bit. But moving on, let's talk about the episode. See, I totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, and the episode is basically that. It's Michael being told last week that, shut up because you think it's all about you, only to find out that it really is all about her, and she's the Red Angel. But the twist is that she really isn't. So how did they capture the Red Angel? Kind of a weird time paradox, because they hatched this plan to kill Michael or put her in grave danger, because that seems to be what attracts the angel. Although, I mean, the asteroid, I mean, it was kind of a flimsy theory, because, okay, in the asteroid, she was sort of in danger, but the angel came there just to kind of give her hope. That was her explanation of that. But she wasn't there in New Eden. The angel appeared and then they went. And also in the story about, I can't remember these titles of these episodes, but where they went to Saru's planet, yeah, it appeared, but she wasn't really in danger. So I'm not getting that exactly, where they came up with this conclusion that, okay, she has to be in danger for it to come. But they came up with this wacky theory where, okay, we're going to put you in danger, possibly kill you, and then the Red Angel is going to save you. Because that seems to be the common denominator in all these appearances. Well, yeah, no, the first one where she was saved as a child. That one, definitely. Yeah, she was saved as a child. So I guess they figure, okay, you're an integral part to this Red Angel thing. It's going to come back. But the thing is, if the angel knew, I mean, if the Red Angel is Michael, she would know that they were just kind of faking her death as far as putting her in danger. But Spock becomes like the variable, because he pulls out his phaser and says, no, we have to complete this. We have to, she has to die. Which some people commented, oh, he should be court-martialed for that. And I'm like, at this point, I'm not sure Discovery is, I'm talking about Discovery, the ship, the crew, is really worried about following Starfleet protocol to the T, I guess you could say. And, I mean, he says, I hope you really don't die, because what that means is that I am going to be tried for the murder of a Starfleet officer once more, or accused of. And so it was kind of weird. Flimsy, let's say, right? I mean, but it worked. I mean, logically, within the logic of the show, it worked. I mean, he had to make sure that she died for real, because otherwise the Red Angel wasn't going to come. And the Red Angel does come at the last minute. Kind of shoots her with some beam. Who knows what the hell that was. She survives. They capture the Red Angel. There's a lot of techno babble to get us to the point where they capture the Red Angel. And the suit opens up. And who is it? It's Michael's mom. And, that's the big twist, because she's supposed to be dead. In fact, Michael had a scene with Leland from the Section 31 ship where she knocks him out, because she finds out from him that he's the reason why her parents are dead, and that they were working on some top secret time travel stuff. So, how is it that it's her mom? That's what we're going to find out. Now, some people that like to complain about everything on Star Trek Discovery pointed out that, well, how could it be her DNA? Because they discovered it was Michael because they said that they did some DNA analysis and it matched Michael perfectly. So how could it be her mom? I know sometimes on Discovery, some things don't always add up script-wise, but this one is too big. So I believe that there's going to be an explanation for this. My theory is that, okay, they captured a Red Angel. What's limiting or what says that Michael can't use that suit coming up, in her timeline, and that maybe those appearances of the Red Angel before aren't really Michael. Who knows? Why there's have to be just one Red Angel in one timeline. So, could be that. And I also believe that her mom might have escaped before that the Klingons killed everybody in the red suit, which is, definitely a possibility. Maybe the guy in Calypso was her dad. Who knows? Discovery 1,000 years in the future. A lot of stuff going on in this episode as far as time travel. Time travel is loopy. It's dangerous territory whenever you enter into it. Some of the stuff you just have to accept. And it is what it is. Timey-wimey, right? If you're a fan of Doctor Who, you know that. But the episode itself, there was some tech babble in it. Time travel, I guess you could say, is kind of sci-fi-ish. But, the show, it teeters sometimes. It sometimes too much on the drama, like the personal drama stuff. Michael's crying all the time. Oh, by the way, that opening scene with the funeral, I wasn't feeling, just because, just because Ariam's dead, and we didn't really get to know her. So then, the episode Frakes directed, I thought was great. I gave that as almost a 10. He was able to make us feel something for this character we had not had any spent any time with, any important time with. He made us feel something for her, which I think was an achievement in itself, just because it is. We felt something for her. But then to have this funeral this week, it was just like, well, I felt something for her that episode just because of the climax and the build-up. But it's been a week, and I'm not sure those feelings still hold for me to feel that much emotion for a funeral scene that long, which included Saru singing. So I don't know if that was a great directorial. Is it directorial or directorial? Anyway, not a great decision there. And especially, the most emotional of those scenes is Spock, being at his funeral. And you're trying to mirror something similar to that. I don't know. We've had a few funeral scenes in Star Trek, but it was characters we kind of... It was build up. There's more build up. Anyway. Lost my train of thought here for a second, guys. But, just the episode as a whole is what I was talking about. Yeah, so it's teetering in that drama, that personal drama, which in a way I'm like, great. I think that's great that Star Trek Discovery is working with that, because Star Trek has never really had that before, outside of like those B episodes, which are great, B episodes, B stories, and some of them have been really cool. Some of those B stories, while the A story is dealing with the more technical sci-fi-ish aspect of Star Trek. So, awesome in a way. sometimes they go too far, though. I mean, one joke that I see a lot, probably more in the Latin American Star Trek sites, is that it feels like a telenovela sometimes, like those Mexican soap operas. And I can't, you know, make an argument against it when people write that, because some aspects of Star Trek Discovery is a little bit more or too much Desperate Housewives, revenge, uh, Grey's Anatomy ish for my taste, right? Remember, I said that a couple episodes ago with the whole Culber and Stamets relationship get back together within everything else that was awesome in that episode. And sometimes it can get too heavy on that side. And it's just not something that interests me as a fan of Star Trek, to get that much into the interpersonal melodrama-ish side of it. Michael and Tyler, now it's Culber and Stamets, they get back together or not? And it's like, ugh. I think fans of Trek will probably say the same thing about the whole Riker and Troy off again, on again romance, and then her and Worf, terrible. I think they did Worf and Dax okay because they were both so tough that you didn't have those lovey-dovey moments. It was like, yeah, I want to get with you. Yeah, I want to get with you too. Boom, bam. We're together. And that's that. And they were just already a couple. We didn't have the, does she want me? Does she not want me? Is he in love? It just, boom, it happens. So, this episode, I thought, wait a little bit too much on that with Michael's just crying all the time. I mean, she was crying, and then it was with Spock, and then she kind of reconciled with Spock, and then she got screwed up over Leland's information, and then she had to cry again because she was dealing with saying goodbye to Ash Tyler, and then she cried again, or got all shit. There's a lot of crying going on. When she saw it was her mother, and then she was crying again when they strapped her to the chair because she might die. And meanwhile, Culber is sort of getting his act together. He goes to see Cornwell, who used to be a psychologist, and then Stamets gives him the cold shoulder because it's like, this is not the time. And man, yeah, a lot of melodrama going on. So cut that out, please. Star Trek Discovery. Let's stick to Star Trek in that aspect. That I will give constructive criticism for. Am I pumped for next episode? I don't know. I guess I am. But I will say, there was something I can't put my finger on. Something about this episode that didn't, which is another reason. I mean, I was extremely busy, but it wasn't this episode that I felt like, oh my god, I got to get this video out ASAP, because it's like, it just blew my mind away. There's so much to talk about. It was okay. It fit. It set the table. It was a good set the table episode. I give it a 7 out of 10. Okay, a strong 7 out of 10. But it was a good set the table episode, and obviously we got, 3 more episodes or 4 more episodes to go. Let's see what it all leads to really blow our minds. Again, I think there's going to be a very reasonable explanation to why that's her mom and why that DNA is there. It wasn't some big ass plot hole that the writers put in the show. And that's about it, guys. I mean, I rambled a lot. This episode was more of me just ranting than anything. So thanks those who watched and listen. Subscribe and like, share, of course. And until next Thursday, let's see where all of this leads to. Keep on trekking, live long, and prosper.